It's saying the video is unavailable. It's scheduled for a certain time. It's 3:30 now. That. It should be. All right, everyone, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, but we're about to get started. So we are going to talk about MackinVia today and how to create project hubs for student research. So this is a great place to store all your information that you need when you're doing a research paper, any kind of project with your students. My name is Angie Green. I am a librarian at Rowlett High School. I've been a librarian for the last 10 years. This is my second year as a Campus I3, and I'm also Google 1 and Level 2 certified. My partner today, who will be moderating, is Jagruti Mehta. She works at Memorial Pathways. She is a math teacher. She is also a second year Campus I3. So Jagruti will be moderating for us today. So if you have any questions or anything you want to know, you can shoot her a question and she will answer you as we go along. Also, at the end of our webinar, in the chat, we will post the link for the CPE credit. So at the very end of the 30 minutes, you'll see that pop up. You can click on it and go to get your credit for the webinar today. Now, why use MackinVia? MackinVia is a great place for teachers and students to store all their resources that they need for a project. It makes it easy, one, for the students to find everything without having to go to Google and worry about whether their sites they're using are relevant and are valid. This gives you a way to link everything that you want them to use in one place. What's also really nice, it does work well with Google Classroom. So you can link it to your Google Classroom and make what your project an assignment, which helps you see who got it turned in on time, lets you put a due date, as well as do a couple other things. When students or teachers are using MackinVia, you only have to log in with your GISD credentials one time. Once you log in initially, it logs you into all the resources you're using. So that's a great benefit. You don't have to keep logging in over and over again. I chose MackinVia because it is a great place to build a digital learning environment for your students. And we know that how important ISTE is in this day and age with empowering learners in a digital environment. Now, there are several different ways that students and teachers can access MackinVia. You can access it from just the website, www.mackinvia.com. You can access it through any of the Garland ISD library, your school's library website, and also through the MackinVia app. And I will show you what each of those look like in just a second. But when students log in, if it's a student, they're going to use SID and their NPIN. If it's a teacher logging in to MackinVia, they use their GISD credentials. So basically what you log into the computer with in the morning. The reason MackinVia is so useful is because your librarian can customize a group page for you and basically build it however you need it built. They can add in to your group page any resources that you want your students to use. They can add in any instructions, videos. They can link to any papers or any other material you may need, and it links with Google Classroom. So in one space, you can have all those things linked together. Now, if you just teach your students to go to MackinVia.com, this is what they're going to see when they type that in.
Karen Lewis, please call 62507.
Sorry about that.
Karen Lewis, 62507.
Okay, so when they type in MackinVia.com, in the top when they start typing in their school name, it'll pop up, and then their username is their GISD username and password. So like I said, for a student, it's SID and NPIN. For a teacher, it's your GISD credentials. If you want them to use the library catalog and go from there, if you notice the large black banner, all they have to do is click on the black banner that says MackinVia. It takes them directly to the login. They put in their credentials. It takes them to MackinVia, and all their resources are there already, and they're already logged in. If you were in a high school, the MackinVia app is located in self-service. So you could have your students download the app to their iPads, and then again, once they log in, anytime they open the app back up, they're good to go. Now, I'm going to show you an example of what MackinVia looks like. We're going to walk through a sample I set up, and then if we have time, I'll show you a few other ones as well. Okay, so when a student or a teacher logs into MackinVia, this is your home page. This is what you're going to see. If you notice on the left-hand side, these are where your students are going to be navigating from. In red, you'll see groups. This is where, if your librarian sets up a project page for you, this is where it's going to be found, is under groups. Now notice I set up an example group for Black History Month, just so we can see what some of the possibilities are. Now, when I click on groups and I click on the name of our project, in this case, the Black History Month example, if you notice, it says there's a plus sign and it says view instructions. When you click on that plus sign, it expands to show any instructions that you put in. Now, I only put in basic instructions just so you can kind of get an idea, but this can be as detailed as you want. You can put pretty much anything you need in here. What's also nice, if you notice, I also have a couple of hyperlinks in my instructions. Instead of having, if I have a rubric already made or an overview already made and I don't want to type it all into the instructions, I can just link out to it. So when I click on that hyperlink, it takes me directly to the instructions. So the students will have the instructions. They don't have to worry about keeping up with the instructions you give them. If they forget exactly what they're doing, they always have access to an electronic copy of that. Same thing for the rubric. If you want them to have access to the rubric from the very beginning, that's another thing you might think about linking in the instructions page. Now, those are just two examples of what I chose today, but you could link all kinds of different information at this point. In the instructions, you might want to link a pathfinder, research handouts they're going to need, or a research guide you could link here. If you're doing a younger age group, maybe you want to put an example in there to show them what they're going to be doing. You could link a work example in there. You could put a slide presentation template so they know exactly how they need to set up their slides, or a sample works cited page. So just anything you can think of that the students need to have access to can be linked in the instructions. Now, underneath the instructions, I've added databases. Now, a lot of these databases, all the schools will have in their MackinVia. If you look under digital resources, these are all of the digital resources that our school district and the state has purchased for us to use. Now, some of these, depending on your project, some of the resources are going to be relevant and some are not going to be what your students are going to need at this time. That's why the group page helps. When you go to groups, it allows you to choose just the resources that they're going to need for this particular project. So they don't spend a lot of time digging through a resource to realize it's not going to fit their needs. Now, notice I chose Britannica School as one of the resources, Gale Literary Sources, Literature Resource Center, and STIRS Knowledge Source. But also, a lot of projects require images. Because of copyright, you want to make sure the students are learning to use images that are labeled for reuse. With Britannica Image Quest, this is one way for us to know that these images are free to use. They do still have to cite them, but all the images in Britannica Image Quest in their project. So that's why I added Britannica Image Quest. Also, down here, I added Omni Music. Depending on what your project is, if they're doing some kind of presentation where they want to add music, whether it's for theme or mood or, you know, to represent a time period, Omni Music, we have a district subscription for our students, so they can use Omni Music. Again, they do need to cite the music that they choose, but it is free to use in their projects. So that way we don't have to worry about them downloading anything illegally or using something without permission. Now, notice there's other resources I've added in our group. It doesn't have to be just resources from our digital resources. You can, your librarian, if you need something in addition to what we already have, they can add other resources. So for example, since this example project is over Black History Month, history.com is a great resource for Black History Month. So I added a link to Black History Month on history.com. When they click on it, it takes them directly to the part of history.com that would be relevant to their project for this topic. So basically anything, any website that would help them research that you want them to use, it is possible to add this to our group also. We can also add, notice I've added Google Drive. This is not a necessity, but if they're going to be doing their work in Google Drive, especially if it's a collaborative paper and you have groups working on it, this is a really easy way to, if they're already in MackinVia using the group page for all the resources, it just gives them a really easy one click and they're there in their Drive. When you open Google Drive, because we are already signed in, notice it is already on my account. So they could right away go ahead and start a new, whatever you want it to be, whether it's a slide presentation, a doc, whatever it is. But it's linked under the resources just like all the other ones are. Now at EasyBib, EasyBib is also another link. We want students to learn the correct way to be citing information, to make sure they are giving credit to those resources that they are using. EasyBib, if you've never used EasyBib before, it will cite the source for them. You can choose MLA format, you can choose APA, Chicago. I'm sure most people will use MLA, but it's a really great way for students to cite their work without having to memorize how MLA works. So they would just, if it's a website, they just put the URL in, they click cite it, and it does the work for them. So EasyBib is very valuable. We want our students to learn that anytime they use information from another site, that they give credit to that site. With putting EasyBib on here, it's again accessible as they go through their project. So as they find an image from Britannica Image Quest, they can cite it right away in EasyBib and put it in their Google Doc. And then they have it at the end of the project. And everything they've used all the way through has been cited already. Now, if you use Google Classroom, which hopefully a lot of our teachers do, you can also link your project to Google Classroom. Now, so the way to do this is your librarian is the one that is going to set up your project for your group for you. Like librarians have the access rights to set up all these groups in MackinVia. When we set the groups up, it gives us an option to link it to Google Classroom. Now, you would have to make your librarian like a co-collaborator or a co-owner of your group. But what it allows you to do, here I made a classroom for the group that's going to be doing the Black History Month project. And if you notice here, when I link it to Google Classroom, it allows me to make this as an assignment. So I can put a due date on it. I put whatever the name is, and it shows me who has submitted it and who hasn't. So this is a great way for you to be able to just put it in your Google Classroom as an assignment, and the students can submit it at that point. Now we have a few minutes, so I'm going to show you some examples of other groups from other schools. Gina King at Austin Academy has made several groups in MackinVia, so I'm going to show you some of her different groups, and you can see how it works. So you can see how this are the teachers' names, or it could be done by grade level. So let's say an entire ELA 7th grade is going to do the Outsiders project. She can make one group for that entire 7th grade project, and everybody has where to go. They can see the project sheet. She can put links to the project sheet. She can put links to MLA. And notice she can link to, they're making a digital poster. So she can link to a digital poster, the digital poster, so they already have where to go to start their project. Again, she's linked to Google Drive, PictoChart, Powtoon, Prezi, S'more, Britannica Image Quest for pictures again, and Omni Music for music. But notice these are all great websites, great digital resources that aren't necessarily already under your school's MackinVia, but it still only takes a minute to add them if it's something that you need to use for your project. Let's look at the biography one. Now, notice in this group, it just gives a very brief overview, but then it has links to all the instructions that you need, whether the due date, what the assignment is. It has different ideas, so gives you ideas on what you can choose, as well as examples. So students can see what other students have done before to try to get ideas. So depending on your grade level, this might be a great way to get started. Let's look at maybe one more about a mythology project. Okay, so here again in the instructions, she's linked the research handout. She's linked all the choices that they have for who they're, what god or goddess they're going to be researching, and a pathfinder and an example. So students can see what their final product should look like. And still at the bottom, they have the resources that they need for the information they're looking for, whether it's history.com, which links them directly to the Greek mythology that applies to their project, or Britannica School. So we're going to go back to Rowlett. Okay, and groups. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go into Britannica and show you. Okay, so when they click on the link to Britannica School from MackinVia, it takes them here. And let's say they're doing the Black History Project on Rosa Parks. From Britannica School, they get all this information. They get images and videos. So if they needed to put pictures in their project, some of them are already there. Might need more, but at least it's a couple. And it gives us related information. So there's a ton of information in that one resource. Now, what's great about using MackinVia is all of these resources have already been vetted. So we know that it is reliable information. We know it's exactly what they need. Now notice up here are all these choices. They can cite this article if they know they want MLA citation. If they click on the cite button, which is the box with the check mark in it, Britannica School gives them the citation already. So all they have to do is copy and paste. If they already went into Google Drive and opened up a document for their citations, they can just copy and paste and it's already there for them. Also, they can listen to this article. So you have different reading levels you can choose, and regardless of what reading level you choose, your students can listen to what it says instead of having to read the whole thing themselves. So using the resources in MackinVia provides many benefits when students are starting research. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left. Were there any questions or anything that y'all wanted me to look at that y'all thought of while we were going through things? Okay. So, in closing, I am Angie Green. Again, I'm a librarian at Rowlett High School. My partner, Jagruti, is a math teacher and I3 at Memorial Pathways. Thank you for joining us. Remember, your librarian would love to help you with this. If you are interested in using MackinVia, please go see your librarian. Talk to her about what you need done, what you're looking to do with your students, and let her be your instructional partner. We would love to collaborate with y'all. This is a great resource that we want you to take advantage of, and we would love to help you. We can help you brainstorm how you want to do things, whether you want to do things digitally or, part digital and part paper. However you want it done, this is a great place to start. MackinVia will not only makes it easy for students to access all the resources, but it teaches them the correct way. It helps teach them the correct way to do research. The correct way to do research by using databases where we know the information is valid and we don't have to spend the time researching the website itself to see if the information we're getting is accurate and correct. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you learned something new. Please, if you have any questions at all, you can reach me at acgreen@garlandisd.net. You can reach Jagruti at jamehta@garlandisd.net. So we are just one email away. If you need anything, please just shoot us an email and we'll help you however we can. Hope you have a great day.